Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. So, as the title says, we need to talk about the Randy Pitchford situation. Randy's company has made serious allegations, and in turn, serious allegations have been made against him, with a few of them being criminal in nature. Achieving clarity on this story is really extremely difficult for a few different reasons. First, Randy's not a well-liked figure. Much of this is just a combination of his online behavior and the shade that he directly threw at popular gaming pundit Jim Sterling, which no doubt has made Randy a popular character to hate on. And that is all well and good, and if you caught me at the pub, I might have something different to say in all of this, but I think when dealing with legal matters of the severity that we're going to cover here, we need to be calm, we need to be considered, and we need to follow the foundations of the law, which is the presumption of innocence and due process. So the headlines surrounding this story have been massive, and the allegations are extremely serious. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to cover the original lawsuit against Wade Callander, and then I'm going to cover the lawsuit from Callander against Randy Pitchford. The latter suit is the one that contains the serious allegations that you will have no doubt heard of, but first we do need to follow events as they unfolded. Now, look, I don't take this lightly, but please, if you want to watch this video, please do it in full. If you only watch the first half, it's just going to seem weird. So, lawsuit number one. This started in December when Gearbox filed a lawsuit against Callender. Gearbox LLC is the plaintiff, and Wade Callander is the defendant. Wade was hired as executive counsel in 2011, and was then promoted to general counsel and vice president of legal affairs, with his goals being to protect the legal rights of the company. Now, Gearbox alleges that he stayed in his position until his resignation in July 2018, but Gearbox claimed that he secretly wanted to leave since November 2017, but in spite of wanting to leave, he stayed to exploit the company. How? Well, here is pretty much what they claim. So, they say that he fell on hard times, needing a loan to buy an alleged over $900,000 house, and that Randy Pitchford approved the company to loan him $300,000 in cash, and that at that time, his salary was alleged to have been $150,000 with an additional $100,000 in royalties and merit-based bonuses. Now, by the time he left the company, Gearbox alleged that he had reduced the balance of this loan to $136,000, and in spite of receiving $300,000 in benefits, he did not put that towards the loan balance. Past that, they alleged that Callander persuaded Pitchford to have the company put him through an expensive MBA program in California, and the Gearbox paid 100% of this, including regular first-class flights and hotels multiple times a month, plus a trip to India. They claim this cost almost $90,000, but the Callander had represented to him that because of that, he would stay in his job role, but that he actually left the company a year after the final tuition payment and did not repay anything. They also claim that Callander was involved in personal litigation and that Gearbox offered to pay his attorney's fees of $50,000. Going beyond that, they claim that he also abused his company credit card privileges, including Disneyland, Frisco Gun Club, Gun Gear To Go, and SixPacksShortcuts.com. Why name those? Well, in my opinion, that is Gearbox in this lawsuit trying to characterize him negatively as leading a life of excess and being of, a vain character. They also allege that Callander manipulated their CFO into giving him a credit increase, leading to him spending $17,000 just before he emptied his office and resigned. Overall, they're trying to characterize him as leading a life of excess and of abusing the generosity of the company and of Randy Pitchford. They seem to be saying that he was an irresponsible executive who abused his privileges, additionally suggesting that the whole thing is especially egregious because of the breach of trust with his old friend Randy Pitchford. Again, that's pretty much what they claim, and the documents are linked below. As for the countersuit, well, Wade did not take this lying down, with his lawsuit against Gearbox really being what drew in the headlines. It contains extremely serious allegations, characterizing Randy Pitchford as, quote, a manipulative and morally bankrupt CEO who shamefully exploited his oldest friend, while characterizing Wade as a military veteran and Texas attorney, which personally I think is them trying to establish Wade as being a man of honorable character. The opening statement tackles the allegations head-on, saying, "No one should be fooled by Randy Pitchford's incessant misdirection. It was Randy Pitchford himself who breached his fiduciary duties by exploiting Gearbox employees and property to fund Pitchford's private cravings. Their main allegation is that, quote, while Randy was denying employee raises predicated on low cash reserves, Randy secretly saddled Gearbox employees with the burden of repaying a private, personal $12 million bonus that Randy Pitchford rerouted from Gearbox's publisher directly to Randy's side entity, Pitchford Entertainment Media and Magic." So what does this claim? Well, first it claims that Callander has a 3% stake in Gearbox and a 33.3% stake in a company called The Hatch LLC that seems to exist for the purpose of buying and owning property, and this was partially in return for Callander helping the remaining two Gearbox founders capture their former third founder's equity in the company when he left the company. After this, Callander claims that he helped to restructure the company's management, and that this included the formation of the Cabinet, a group of highly compensated executives who would also get a profit share, with Callander claiming that a part of the Cabinet Pact, which they agreed to, meant that Cabinet members could not leave without Pitchford's approval. This is likely there to hit back against Gearbox's claim that he just up and left by saying that Pitchford would have had to have approved it. Now, the lawsuit mostly goes on to characterize Callander as a high-performing employee who was repeatedly given assurances by Pitchford but was often strung along and misled. Again, though, these are allegations. So this lawsuit then moves on from these more professional allegations to extremely serious personal ones that are aimed at Pitchford, and these are the messy ones that you no doubt have heard of. First, it claims that a USB drive was found at medieval times by an employee, and what Callander claims is, it's extremely serious, so it was returned. Now, Pitchford then supposedly claimed that the drive belonged to him. Callander had it copied to ensure that it could be verified, but when Randy returned, he retrieved the USB himself and ordered the copy destroyed. This lawsuit claims that it had sensitive documents relating to publishers and a collection of underage material. Now, this obviously set the internet on fire. Pitchford has responded, denying and offering clarification, and I will be getting to that very soon, but first we need to finish off the lawsuit section of this video. So, finances and excesses and the parties. It claims that Pitchford siphoned company profits to fund parties thrown by him and his wife for their own benefit. He claims that they refer to these as peacock parties, and that more seriously, it claims that these involve minors being exposed to. An extremely serious allegation that, again, Gearbox strongly denies. It then talks about the $12 million that Pitchford allegedly spun off to that other entity that he owned, and that his bonuses were counted as advances upon royalties owed to Gearbox employees, which essentially would have meant that Gearbox employees would have only received their royalties after Randy's bonuses had been repaid to the publisher through profit, etc. So basically, it's saying that Pitchford is extremely greedy at the expense of his employees. Now, the suit claims that Callander brought this to Pitchford and that their relationship soured afterwards. Callander then claims that he helped the Pitchford family through an embezzlement case, but that Pitchford concealed Callander's role in the successful case when it was being reported to the news. It then goes on to talk about the deteriorating relationship between the two men over time, including calling Pitchford a, quote, self-professed magician and master of human manipulation, and still characterizing him as Callander's oldest friend. This includes claiming that Pitchford gaslighted him and moved to deny him money that he was allegedly owed. It accuses Pitchford of waging essentially an internal campaign against Callander and publicly portraying himself as a kind and loving person, while internally being bigoted towards Callander and the charities which he cared for. Then, in a move that it characterizes as unrelenting tyranny, the lawsuit claims that Pitchford attempted to pressure Callander into helping him get 100% of the company by squeezing out his remaining founder. After this, the suit claims that Callander started to reach out regarding his exit from the company as stipulated in the Cabinet Pact. It claims that Cabinet members were disappointed that he wanted to leave, and they were concerned about Randy, again saying that Randy had exploited his oldest friend. That's what it claims. It also claims that Pitchford learned of his intent and announced that he had resigned and that he was, with regret, accepting the resignation. And then after this, it claims that Callander was pretty quickly cut off from company systems, and it claims that Pitchford would then go on to commit unthinkable acts that would become clear when the case enters discovery. So, that's a summary of the two lawsuits. In my opinion, we see the two parties attempt to characterize each other negatively, with the allegations against Pitchford obviously being especially severe. We also see Callender's suit allege that Pitchford's, quote, unthinkable acts will be revealed in discovery. Now, discovery is a period where each party can obtain evidence about the other party, and when a request is objected to, they can actually file for a motion to compel. Basically, it's a way of getting information. Now, this is a very messy situation, especially for Pitchford, who, as I said, is a bit of a bad boy within the industry. He did not do that well in terms of his public perception out of Aliens, Colonial Marines, and that whole situation, and then again, his beef with industry pundit Jim Sterling has set audiences, especially in this platform, against him. I think that overall, it means that people are going to believe a lot of allegations, even though they are just allegations. Now, while I personally do have my own suspicions, for the sake of this video, I have to be entirely neutral on them. We just don't have that much credible evidence yet for most of this stuff. This situation has done the media rounds before much has happened past the initial volleys, and that means that for the most part, we're dealing with allegations in documents and hearsay outside of those documents. Outside of the courtroom, right? It is tempting to go full bore into the salacious claims, but we need not be alarmists. So, okay, that's what's up. Let's talk about what has happened since this whole thing came out. And we got to start with the USB. So Ars Technica dug up an interview with Pitchford on a Magic podcast. Now, it's worth saying Pitchford is a fan of magic and magicians, so it does make sense that he was there. Now, what was strange is that this was recorded a day before the initial Gearbox versus Callander lawsuit was filed. In this podcast, he claims that the adult performer was of age and that he was particularly interested in watching for her sleight of hand, saying that she was not an adult industry worker, but instead was a magician. An interesting defense. Most importantly, this does go against the underage claims that were contained in the Callender versus Gearbox suit. Since then, he has made incredibly poor judgments regarding his tweets that honestly do make me question whether he actually exists or not, and if the whole thing is just a glitch in the Matrix because the tweet is just that misjudged. But anyway, let's talk about those parties. The Callender suit contains really serious allegations. Pitchford describes as the theater being a sort of a community theater, even though it is just a private thing in his house. But he did say, or Gearbox did say, that everything there is recorded and that they can prove the claims are baseless. Right now, regarding the theater and private party situation, it is one person's word against the other. Now, if true with all of these things, there are serious legal consequences. Thankfully, that's not something that I have to work out. That is the job of law enforcement and the justice system, and I will report on that if that happens. Now, where matters were further complicated is when David Eddings, Gearbox VP, tweeted, "It's true." Now, he had not offered further communication for quite a while. People did not know, is he referring to the 12 million, the USB drive, or the parties? Now, he's since clarified that, thankfully, because his original tweet was extremely irresponsible given the allegations that have been made, and as you can see on his tweet, he has nothing to say on the most salacious claims, the most damaging ones, but the things of being, pretty terrible are still there. But the very serious criminal thing, obviously, he doesn't have anything to say on that, which means, again, we just don't know anything. Now, following this, Ars Technica found a formal filing made by Wade Callander in October, and they claim that this suggests that Gearbox's suit in December was in retaliation to a claim made by Wade Callander with the Texas Workforce Commission. Now, this filing claims that Pitchford repeatedly harassed Callander for his religious beliefs. Gearbox contacted them, saying that these are the acts of a former disgruntled employee who voluntarily resigned and is trying to extort the company for money. So that's essentially everything that's been going on, but on the whole, we just need to sort of break this down. I personally think the Callender suit is as extreme as it is to force a settlement. Now, that is just personal opinion, but obviously, this is news of the most damaging kind for Pitchford. And what I think, personally, this is rumors and scuttlebutt, right? Just what I think is that, he wants to put this out so they can settle out of court, just settle the case, and not have it actually proceed, especially because he's talked about, all these things being discovered in the discovery phase. I'm assuming what he actually wants is for Gearbox to basically just fire him a big wad of money to go away. That's my personal suspicion. As for the other things, I can talk about the pressures of the lawsuits. As for the actual claims in them, it's not my job to work out what those things are. And it would be irresponsible of me to overly speculate on them, and I think irresponsible of really anyone who's doing that, because right now it's just 2 lawsuits in which just about anything can be said, plus a bunch of things that have been said on the internet. That's what's up with the Randy Pitchford situation. This will likely be a developing story over time. We will find out, does this go to a settlement? Does it actually proceed into court? We'll just have to wait and see. Let me know what you think about this entire situation down in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.